Good evening. It's Wednesday, the 2nd of July, and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Policy debate. President Trump proposes significant cuts to government subsidies for Tesla and Elon Musk companies to improve fiscal efficiency and reduce public spending. Industrial disaster. Deadly explosion and fire at pharmaceutical factory in India's Telangana state kills dozens and injures many, raising urgent safety concerns in manufacturing sector. Medical breakthrough. Researchers achieve historic milestone in cancer tissue profiling, paving the way for more precise treatments and personalized patient care worldwide.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight with Prashansa Gunawardana.
Good evening once again. US President Donald Trump has suggested that the Government Efficiency Department review subsidies granted to Elon Musk companies, including Tesla, as a potential cost-cutting measure. The move has sparked fresh debate over government support for large tech and energy firms.
A recent fallout between US President Donald Trump and Elon Musk took another turn Tuesday. Trump suggested the Government Efficiency Department should take a look at the subsidies Musk's companies have received in order to save money. The comments come after the Tesla CEO renewed his criticism of Trump's sweeping tax cut and spending bill. He also vowed to unseat lawmakers who backed it after campaigning on limiting government spending. Musk wrote on X in response to Trump's Truth Social post, "I am literally saying cut it all now." Trump previously threatened to cut Musk's government subsidies and contracts when their relationship broke down last month over the bill. Non-partisan analysts have said it would add about $3 trillion to the US debt. Musk's businesses include rocket company and government contractor SpaceX, which has about $22 billion in federal contracts. His rift with Trump also caused volatility for Tesla. Shares of the electric car giant lost about $150 billion of its market value on June 5th, though it has since recovered. Tesla shares trading in Frankfurt tumbled 5% on Tuesday. On Saturday, Musk called the package utterly insane and destructive in a post on X, and called again for a new political party.
At least 36 people have died and dozens injured after a massive explosion and fire at a chemical factory in Telangana, India. Authorities are conducting DNA tests to identify victims as the cause of the blast remains unknown.
At least 36 people have died and dozens more were injured following a massive explosion and subsequent fire at a chemical factory in Telangana, southern India. The incident, which occurred, has left rescue teams scrambling to manage the aftermath as authorities conduct DNA tests to identify victims whose bodies were severely burned. The cause of the blast has not yet been determined, and the company owning the plant has not provided an official explanation. The explosion at the chemical plant caused a powerful fire that engulfed significant portions of the facility, complicating rescue operations and delaying investigations. Emergency services were quick to respond, but the intensity of the blaze made it difficult to reach trapped workers. Local officials have expressed deep concern about safety standards and regulatory oversight at the factory, which operates in one of India's rapidly growing industrial hubs. The use of DNA testing to identify the deceased highlights the severity of the explosion and the tragic loss of life involved. This disaster has renewed discussions about industrial safety in India, where rapid industrialization sometimes outpaces enforcement of safety protocols. Chemical plants, due to the nature of the substances they handle, require rigorous safety measures to prevent accidents. The incident underscores the urgent need for improved regulation, emergency preparedness, and worker protection to prevent similar tragedies. Investigators continue to examine possible causes, including equipment failure, chemical leaks, or human error, as the community mourns those lost in this catastrophic event.
Fiji's Prime Minister Sitiveni Rabuka firmly opposes China's plans to establish a military base in the Pacific Islands, emphasizing the region's desire for neutrality amid growing US-China rivalry. Fiji advocates friendly policies without taking sides in security tensions.
Fiji, a key Pacific island nation strategically located between the United States and Asia, has openly rejected proposals for a Chinese military base in the region. Prime Minister stressed that such a base is unnecessary for China to project power, citing Beijing's successful intercontinental ballistic missile test in 2023 as proof of its far-reaching capabilities. Prime Minister's comments come amid escalating competition between Washington and Beijing, each seeking to strengthen their security and diplomatic footholds in the Pacific Islands. The region has thus become a central arena for geopolitical rivalry, with Pacific leaders striving to maintain a delicate balance. Pacific Islands have historically pursued a policy of neutrality, seeking friendly relations with all major powers while avoiding conflict or favoritism. The Prime Minister highlighted that this approach, though difficult, remains achievable as island nations aim to safeguard their sovereignty and development interests. Fiji's stance is significant given Beijing's growing presence in the Pacific, including a security pact with the Solomon Islands and police deployments in several island nations. Despite these moves, China has repeatedly denied intentions to establish military bases in the region, a claim met with skepticism by some international observers wary of Beijing's expanding influence. The strategic tug-of-war in the Pacific Islands reflects broader global tensions between the United States and China, with both powers vying for access to resources, trade routes, and military advantages. For Pacific nations like Fiji, navigating this rivalry requires diplomatic skill and firm commitment to regional stability. As China continues to deepen ties through economic investment and security agreements, Pacific leaders must weigh the benefits and risks of engagement. Fiji's opposition to a Chinese military base underscores its commitment to a peaceful, multipolar Pacific and sends a clear message about the importance of maintaining regional autonomy in an increasingly contested geopolitical landscape.
Qantas has confirmed a major data breach affecting 6 million customers, marking one of Australia's biggest cyber attacks in recent years. The airline says a hacker accessed personal details via a third-party platform, triggering fresh concerns over cybersecurity and customer trust.
Qantas says 6 million customer accounts have been exposed in a cyber attack. The Australian airline said Wednesday that a hacker targeted a call centre and gained access to a third-party customer service platform that contained data including names, email addresses, birth dates and more. Qantas didn't disclose the location of the call centre but says it acted immediately after detecting the breach. Last week, the US Federal Bureau of Investigation said cybercrime group Scattered Spider was targeting airlines. It said Hawaiian Airlines and Canada's WestJet had already reported attacks, though it wasn't clear Wednesday whether the same group was also behind the new incident. The hack could hardly come at a worse moment for Qantas, which has been trying to win back public trust after a series of controversies. That includes a legal ruling that it illegally sacked thousands of ground staff during the COVID pandemic. The airline also had to admit selling thousands of tickets for flights it knew it had already cancelled. Such incidents have seen it tumble down airline and brand league tables. On Wednesday, shares in the company were off more than 2% by mid-afternoon following news of the hack.
Spain and the World Bank launched a global hub for debt swaps, aiming to help countries free funds for sustainable development. The initiative supports refinancing debt at lower cost to boost projects like climate adaptation, food security and education worldwide.
At the United Nations Finance for Development Summit in Seville, Spain unveiled the Global Hub for Debt Swaps for Development, a joint effort with the World Bank. This hub will offer technical and financial support to countries seeking to reallocate funds from debt servicing to critical social and environmental initiatives. With official development aid shrinking and debt repayments increasingly burdensome, debt swaps provide a creative financial tool. By refinancing expensive loans with cheaper alternatives, nations can redirect savings towards pressing projects such as coral reef protection, water sanitation, and schooling. Countries including Barbados and Ivory Coast have already employed these mechanisms in recent years, demonstrating their potential to alleviate financial pressures while advancing development goals. Despite the promise of debt swaps, critics warn of challenges including high transaction costs, lengthy negotiations, and complexities in replicating successful deals across diverse economies. The obstacles have limited broader adoption, even though advocates highlight the urgency of such financial innovation to address mounting debt crises exacerbated by climate change and global economic instability. Spain's commitment to contribute €3 million to the hub and redirect billions in special drawing rights underscores the country's leadership role in fostering global economic stability. SDRs issued by the IMF as reserve assets enhance liquidity and provide developing nations with access to vital funding, which Spain is helping to channel effectively towards vulnerable economies. The Seville summit also marked the launch of the Debt Suspension Clause Alliance, a coalition of wealthy creditor nations and multilateral institutions designed to offer sovereign borrowers relief during climate or humanitarian emergencies. Spain's Foreign Minister José Manuel emphasized the alliance's flexible approach, suggesting that debt suspensions could also apply in the event of war, broadening protection for countries facing complex crises. This evolving framework aims to balance debt sustainability with urgent development needs, reflecting growing recognition that innovative financial tools are critical to achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals amid an increasingly uncertain global landscape.
Let's go in for a short commercial break. More world news coming right after this. Welcome back. In a rare public tribute, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un honors troops reportedly killed in Russia's war on Ukraine. State media aired emotional footage from Pyongyang's ceremony marking 1 year of military cooperation with Moscow.
In a rare public display, North Korean state media aired images of its troops deployed to Russia's Kursk region. Marking the first anniversary of a new military pact with Moscow, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un watched the performance in Pyongyang, sitting with his daughter Chue, as Russia's culture minister Olga Lyubimova sat at the table next to him. Large screens showed photos of North Korean soldiers in combat, as well as images of Kim pausing before flag-draped coffins, scenes never before shown to the public. After a Russian ensemble performed, North Korean artists offered songs apparently dedicated to fallen soldiers, and Kim stood during the tribute song. Cameras captured audience members wiping away tears as Kim was seen kneeling by the coffins, his hands resting on the flags covering them. State media also revealed, for the first time, Kim's handwritten order authorizing the Kursk offensive. Analysts say Pyongyang is using the ceremony to honor the fallen, rally public support, and reinforce its growing alliance with Moscow. Officials in Seoul believe the display may also be intended to sustain morale ahead of possible additional deployments and to remind Russia that these sacrifices come with the expectation of compensation. Observers also noted the deliberate staging of Kim's daughter, who has appeared more frequently at Russia-related events since she visited the Russian embassy in May, as part of efforts to present her as a potential successor.
US President Donald Trump will host Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu at the White House next week, aiming to end the Gaza war. The meeting follows the deadly Israeli airstrikes in Gaza and Washington's early mediation of a ceasefire with Iran.
U.S. President Donald Trump is set to host Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House next Monday, as Washington ramps up efforts to end the war in Gaza. Unnamed U.S. officials confirmed the visit, which comes amid a renewed push to broker a ceasefire. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt, during a briefing on Monday, reaffirmed the administration's commitment to ending the conflict.
I also know that this administration is in constant communication with Israeli leadership, and the president himself speaks frequently, as you know, to Prime Minister Netanyahu. But this has been a priority for the president since he took office, to end this brutal war in Gaza.
Netanyahu's upcoming visit comes as the U.S., after striking Iranian nuclear sites and brokering a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, shifts focus to ending the Israel-Hamas conflict. On the same day, according to AP News, Israeli forces left at least 74 people dead in Gaza. The deadliest attack targeted a beachfront cafe crowded with women and children. It was one of the few remaining places during the war where civilians could charge their phones and access the internet. Faraz Awad, a Gaza Health Ministry official, said at least 30 were killed and dozens injured in the cafe strike. Local medical officials reported 15 more deaths on a Gaza City street, 6 in a separate building strike, 11 civilians shot while searching for food, and 10 killed at a UN aid warehouse. While Israel maintains it only targets militants, Gaza's health ministry reports that more than 56,000 Palestinians, many of them civilians, have been killed since the war began.
In France, heated debates and strikes continue over a controversial media reform plan that would merge major public broadcasters into a single entity, France Medias. Tensions peaked with a fiery exchange in Parliament, briefly halting discussions led by Culture Minister Rachida Dati.
It has been postponed again and again. Now the reform of France's public broadcasting system has taken a step back, after French MPs voted against it, even before the beginning of a debate on the text in the National Assembly on Monday. The proposal would create a holding company called France Média to oversee France Télévisions, Radio France and the National Audiovisual Institute, or INA. The three media companies would be run by one CEO with a budget of €4 billion. The reform is backed by the Senate, which passed a bill in 2023. And has the staunch support of Culture Minister Rachida Dati. The aim of this merger, according to its proponents, to pool forces in public media, to compete with platforms such as Netflix and TikTok, and to reach a wider audience of young people by investing massively in digital. But for its critics, the reform aims to drastically reduce the resources of public broadcasting and threatens editorial independence. Radio France began a strike on Thursday. Over 40% of employees have taken part, and programming has seen interruptions due to the union's actions. They have not set an end date for the mobilisation. On Monday, they were joined by employees of France Télévisions, INA and France Média Monde, who will strike again on Tuesday. The aim is to put additional pressure on lawmakers, with the text now returning to the Senate for a second reading.
3 days after signing a peace agreement with Rwanda to end the M23 conflict in eastern Congo, President Felix Tshisekedi has addressed the nation for the first time. Speaking on Independence Day, he emphasized hope for lasting regional stability and unity.
In a televised address, he thanked US President Trump for brokering the talks and said that they would lead to peace in eastern Congo. The aim is to end the 3-year conflict with the M23 rebel group, which Rwanda has backed with thousands of its own troops. Rwanda is meant to withdraw those troops under the deal, and both sides are meant to stop support for non-state armed actors.
This agreement isn't just a document, it's a promise of peace for the people of Goma, Bakuvu, Lubero, Ituri, and all the localities martyred by war. This diplomatic process is also linked to the discussions underway in Doha. Our ambition remains unequivocal: to fully re-establish the authority of the state over the entire national territory and to work towards establishing real, lasting and shared peace throughout the sub-region.
Time for a short break now. We'll be right back. Welcome back. In a world-first breakthrough, Queensland researchers have developed a revolutionary method for profiling cancer tissue. This advancement could transform cancer treatment by helping doctors better predict which therapies will work, offering new hope for personalized and more effective care.
In 2018, Ataya El-Haj was on a family holiday when she first noticed something wasn't quite right.
So I've gone down, and part of that was just an ulcer.
A mouth ulcer proving far more sinister. Weeks later, the mother was diagnosed with tongue cancer and booked in for emergency surgery.
They essentially removed about half of my tongue, and I did radiation every day for 6 weeks. The treatment options we were given are very limited.
But that's all about to change. In a world first, Queensland researchers are paving the way towards personalised treatment plans, making a major breakthrough when it comes to profiling cancer tissue.
We looked at about 100 patients around the world, and we mapped where every cell of the tumour and the normal cells are and how they're communicating with each other. That resolution hasn't been possible before.
The global study taking samples from head and neck cancer patients, led by a team at the Wesley Research Institute, using cutting-edge 3D mapping technology to profile every cell within a patient's biopsy.
And it's giving us this incredible wealth of information about each individual patient's tumour.
In turn, helping doctors determine the most successful type of treatment, ultimately improving survival rates.
I think it would be a much better outcome for people because it's so much more targeted.
The success of this study is already expanding, now also helping patients with lung, bladder and skin cancer.
In Australia, a growing campaign called Rethink Roaming is urging cat owners to keep their pets safely indoors. The initiative features an online tool that reveals dangers cats face when roaming suburbs, from traffic to disease and wildlife encounters.
Louisa Koppel says her two cats, Saskia and Castiel, are happiest at home.
We've also put cat nets up on our balcony, and that means that it's now a very fantastic catio.
Cats who roam outside their owner's property are 3 times more likely to not make it home alive.
9 out of 10 cats that go missing are not reunited with their owners, and that's a really terrible statistic.
The RSPCA's Rethink Roaming campaign includes an online tool to show pet owners what risk their cat is facing if they head out and explore their suburb.
Whether there are train lines, main roads, snakes. We also know the impact that cats have on the environment and wildlife.
Of the 79 councils in Victoria, more than half have cat curfews in place. Most are from sunrise to sunset, but there's 24-hour restrictions in the Yarra Ranges, Wellington Shire in Gippsland, the Surf Coast Shire and Knox City Council, where there's also a $91 fine for first offences and up to $545 for repeated breaches. Plus, there's the extra costs of getting a pet released from the pound. As for how to keep adventurous cats contained and entertained,
elevated spaces, having cat trees, different beds, we get them anything that can move like prey would move, and that will kind of create that for them inside.
And with that, we come to the end of today's edition of World News Tonight. With the hopes of seeing you again, I'm Prashansa Gunawardana. And we leave you tonight with the visuals of Labubu-themed treats, blending art and dessert. Also, don't forget to send us your feedback through email at feedback.ad24english@derana.lk or via WhatsApp at 076805793. Anuradhi Vikram Singha will be joining you next with the nightly business report. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.